Yeah, yeah, I
Hey,
can.
now you're in there. Yeah, the beauty of doing stuff live, right? It's so they didn't bring no injury update news on Tut.
No, no. Gus basically said that tonight they didn't practice, and that was basically by design because he knew, after the last few weeks of playing, that guys were banged up and guys were hurt, so they took Sunday off. But I think based on what Gus was saying, that they're kind of waiting to see what his status is.
Okay, yeah, that's good. I mean, as long as if it was something severe, they would have came out and said it already. So, looking at it, we were just talking about that fourth quarter for Auburn yesterday. Outscored 17-0. I think A&M had the ball over 10 minutes in that fourth quarter. What did you see in that fourth quarter that we hadn't seen from Auburn all year look like that?
Yeah, I mean, it was just the biggest thing was the inconsistency on the offense. And the thing is that kind of struck me is it really seemed like Auburn was, trending in the right direction on offense against a really good Texas A&M defense. I mean, Tank Bigsby broke what I think was about a 25-yard run, and it sort of looked like they were in good shape. And then from there, the offense just kind of couldn't muster what it had found at that point. I think they wound up kicking a field goal on that drive, and then from there it was really, nothing, no kind of sense of rhythm or ability to move the ball. And I think, even going through that whole game, as poorly as the defense played, the offense had the team right there on the cusp of winning, but they had to have those drives late in the fourth quarter to have a shot. And you get three and out, and then another three and out, and that was the story of the game. There at the end. So I mean, that was the thing that really struck me. I mean, the defense played really, really poorly throughout the game. But, even with that being said, the offense had a chance to kind of, make up for that and to kind of bail out the whole team. And the offense just kind of got into a funk there. And when you do that and have your defense playing as poorly as it did, it's gonna wind up leaving you with a loss more often than not.
Yeah, we're speaking about the rushing yards Texas A&M was able to gather up on Auburn. I mean, over 300 yards on a Kevin Steele defense is not, it's not acceptable anywhere, but you just don't expect that. I think losing Brown and Davison, people kind of under taught or down taught this defense, but this defensive front's been pretty good all season.
Yeah.
Do you think, not to say a quit attitude, but just like a lack of effort might have led to some of that or a lack of focus from this defense?
Well, I think really the biggest thing is just that they knew that this was going to be a really tough test, and I think that it's just really a matter of Texas A&M was better, had a lot more experienced offensive line. Four of their five guys are seniors. Came in Isaiah Spiller was
Hmm.
second in the SEC coming into Saturday in rushing yards per game, just behind Najee Harris. So I mean he was really good, and their other running back made a lot of plays. I don't think it was so much an effort thing because, based on what we had been told and what we'd heard from players kind of leading up to Saturday's game, they saw it as an opportunity to redeem how the entire team played against Alabama. They wanted to say, look, that wasn't us. We're better than that. We're not, 29 points behind, some of the top teams in the nation. But I think, listening to it afterwards and talking to Big Cat Bryant specifically, he talked about the fact that, A&M just schemed them up really, really well.
Hmm.
He told us that, he felt like they looked even better live than they did on film, which isn't a knock on how they
Yeah.
had been playing, but they made plays and just really kind of threw this defense for a loop. Like you said, I mean, I think everybody knew that this year would be at least a little bit of a step back defensively, especially on that front. I mean, when you lose a guy that's drafted, and
Yeah.
I think Derek was drafted seventh, and then you had Marlon, who was a second round pick. I mean, those guys just don't grow on trees, so we knew that it was going to be a bit of a step back. But this year it's just not been the best as far as the defense being able to hold its own. It's been a lot of struggles on third down, and we saw that again Saturday, and that was kind of in sort of in connection with the offense having those three and outs late. The defense got Texas A&M into two third downs, one of them like a third and nine,
Yeah.
and gave them both up. I mean, third down has been a real problem for this defense all year, and it happened again Saturday, and it wound up being Auburn's first home loss this year.
Yeah, I mean, watching the game when A&M got the ball, drove, I think it was 11 plays, 75-yard drive to start the game. Auburn a real quick 3-and-out. And it seemed, here we go, just coming off the Iron Bowl. And Auburn did such a good job of staying in the game, maintaining, giving themselves a chance, then end up with the lead going into the fourth quarter. And it seemed, the guys were really rallied up, whether it be, rallied for Gus or just pride in general. But, you see so much in the SEC with South Carolina and LSU, Vanderbilt, of teams just quitting, just openly saying, hey, we're done. And then you see a team like Auburn who know things aren't going well, but, we're going to try. We're going to try to give ourselves a shot. And they almost did. The fourth quarter, the wheels kind of came off. But let's just talk about the elephant in the room, Jordan. I know you knew it was going to come up, the Gus talk. As far as the fan base, everybody hears it. It's probably, I'd say 85, 90% of the fans want something to happen. Where do you see Auburn going in that direction?
Just based on everything I've seen and sort of, getting the temperature of what's going on, I don't expect there to be a change as far as Malzahn, and it's kind of a product of this year. I mean, this crazy year that we're in. Coming off of December 1st, Gus's buyout would be $21.45 million. And they would have to pay, I think, about half of that within 30 days if they were to terminate his contract. I just don't think that's going to be, a situation the athletic department's going to go after, given, all the money that they've lost because of COVID and the things like that. So I don't think Gus will be fired this year, given the situation. It could very well change, though, if, there's a situation where they go to Mississippi State Saturday and, if it's a situation that doesn't play in Auburn's favor, I could see a situation where the boosters say, okay, enough's enough. If we got to raise the money ourselves, we'll do it. I don't think that's realistic, but I think, that's not an impossibility. But, listening to Gus talk to us tonight, he really talked about the future and the fact they'll have a much more experienced team next year. And to that point, I think that Malzahn will realize, that he'll probably get 2021 with Auburn, but there's got to be results. If there's another season that isn't, really contending, to at the very least play for the conference championship, the heat will be up, and there's not going to be a whole lot of margin for error if he wants to make it to 2022.
Yeah, and for Gus, you get Georgia and Alabama in Jordan-Hare next year, which we've seen that's, been the only way he's been able to beat either team, especially Alabama, a lot more success. And so, if he sticks around, has another year, who knows? Now, you do have to go, I believe, Penn State early in the year. Now, I know they're not world beaters this season, but it's always going to be tough. You don't know what the crowd's going to be next year. So, if he sticks around for 2021, you still have that opportunity for another good season. Mm-hmm. And you know how fast fans can switch around. When people see this year and you talk next year with players coming back, Bo Nix, how have you seen him either progress or regress getting ready for wrapping up his sophomore season?
I think it's fair to say that that it's been disappointing to see Bo not make the progress that a lot of people thought he would in his sophomore year. I think you could say that he's probably progressed a little bit as a runner. He's shown at times, he's such a hard, and we saw that Saturday. He's such a hard runner, and when he needs to, he can turn that speed on, but he's just so inconsistent passing. When you look at the numbers, he's one of the, as far as completion percentage, he's near the bottom of the SEC. He may wind up being at the bottom as far as guys who have started throughout the year. And you just have to see progress in that situation. If he wants to be the guy, and if that's going to be the guy, if Gus is, fully settled on, hey, Bo is going to be our quarterback and we're going to compete for a championship in 2021, there's got to be more progress. You look at Saturday, one play specifically that I think about, he had Eli Stove wide open down the left side of the field and just airmailed it. Threw it nowhere near him. And I'd have to go back and really look at the video of the play. But, from what I was hearing other people talk about, his footwork on that throw was just way off. And his mechanics are the biggest issue. He's got the arm to be able to make some of those throws. But it's like he just – the mechanics aren't there. And at times, I'm thinking early in the season, I think it was after the Kentucky game, Gus was asked about, Bo's mechanics, and it was basically, well, he made the throw, so you pat him on the back and say good job. It's like, well, he made that throw that one time, but there's not enough consistency, and that's the biggest thing that's been the knock on Bo, and it needs to still be the knock. If you're going to play and really contend in the SEC, you have to have a quarterback that you trust can get the ball there, and it hasn't happened enough times, and he'll be going in to his third year next year, and there has to be some sort of growth. And now maybe this off season we'll see some of that. That it'll be his first full off season that he can work with Chad Morris, and maybe they can correct some of those things. But I think it's fair to say it's been disappointing as far as any kind of progress he's made, and if Auburn is going to contend like Gus believes and is telling us he expects him to. There's got to be real improvement in Bo's play at quarterback.
You think there's going to be any seniors that come back and opt to come back with the NCAA allowing that?
I'm interested to see. It's been kind of funny. It's been brought up to Gus the last few weeks, and he's kind of tiptoed around it, basically saying we'll talk about it, later after the season. But I will be interested to see if we see some guys come back. A guy I'd really be intrigued to see what his decision is Big Cat Bryant. He's been a guy that we've had, high expectations for since he's been at Auburn. And, this year he's dealt with injuries and hasn't had the production you would expect. But, if he were to decide he wanted to come back and play one more year at Auburn, I think that would be huge. Again, with the inexperience that they have had up there and trying to replace guys like Davidson and Brown. So, they haven't said anything specifically about who's coming back. I could see him potentially. And I'm curious, too, on KJ Britt, since he really didn't get to play very much this year and had surgery after the Georgia game. I'm not sure if he might be available for Mississippi State next Saturday. But he would be another guy that I'd be intrigued to see if he decides, hey, I want another year and another crack at it. Because if he comes back, that would be a huge, huge plus for 2021.
Yeah, I think that'd be that's like gaining a free agent or something. Yeah. If you're in a professional sport, having a guy of that caliber come back. Well, Jordan, I appreciate you calling in. I hate we have the technical difficulties, but I appreciate you bearing with us. And, hey, let's try to do this again sometime.
Absolutely, Rick. I appreciate y'all having me on. And, yeah, anytime, just give me a holler.
All right, buddy. We'll see you.
See you.
I'm not sure that's the answer a lot of Auburn fans would want to hear. No. I'm going to be honest with you. Alex, if you're over there, you could chime in.
Womp.
Yeah.